planning meeting, the Tuesday 7th of February. Just a thank to all those councillors who have turned up. A bit thin on the ground. I didn't want to be non-quorate, but we're not here. So on to 63722, declarations, any disclosure of pecuniary interest. Shown. Obviously, we have the opportunity should they arise. 63822, apologies for absence, please, Karen.
Crawford, Dowling, Hollis, James, Jeremy, Parker.
Thank you. 63922, the minutes to confirm the minutes of the planning committee held on the 13th of December and the 10th of January, two lots, which were received on by full council on 31st of January. So I'm happy for that. Signed as a true record.
Happy.
Agree with the minutes. Thank you. So 64022, planning applications into the main body of things. So the first one we have up is A0018, the Paddock Ford Street, erection of a detached glazed oak building.
So this, yeah, they did originally have 0019 as listed building, but the historic building officer said that they didn't need to have that, and so that part of the application has been withdrawn. So this is the site, as I'm sure you're all familiar with. They did give us all the house bits, but it's not actually happening in the house. So this is what they are intending to erect. And this is what it looks like. And if I go back to the map, you can see on the right hand side where they are intending to put building. So it doesn't need listed building, it's not necessary. There's no changes to the internals of the house. And this is what they're putting up.
Just nicely pretty lovely. Any comments or?
I'd like to kind of oppose this in a way, but there's no reason to do so. It's invisible from the road, it's set well back from the river, it's sideways onto the river. I don't think it's going to spoil anyone's view. It's tastefully done, as you might expect of that address. New people have moved in. I would suggest we support it.
A bit of support?
Yeah.
Okay, so I could just say that's supported, no additional comments, yeah.
So then on to B0044.
Was something.
Sorry, Chris.
On this one here, this is
Was that
building
the last one?
Tavares School,
Yes.
that's the corner of the Berry Road.
Yes, what was the old Labour Club?
Well, I include a non-pecuniary interest because we own that.
I think it's that building, isn't it?
But no, isn't it?
No,
It's the barn.
it's the barn behind the one on Bridge Street.
Oh, ignore that then. Sorry, I'm.
Different building.
I just thought it was the one on the Berry Road. Ignore that, that's rubbish.
Okay, so go to the site map.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it isn't actually 11 Berry Road, is it?
It's
No,
Well, the entrance might.
yeah,
Yes, so the access is via Berry
Yeah.
Road.
that's okay, ignore that.
And the bit that you can see, the red outline, which is hatched at the top, is what they're looking at, which is the barn. So there's a slightly more complex picture. There you go. And let me just show you what's going on. So this is the proposed layout internally of the barn. And yeah, so there you go. That's a kind of like a clean version.
obviously those that are aware that the school fronts onto Bridge Street did, I think, when it came through, offer concerns that it probably wasn't the most desirable place to have the school, given that the traffic and that there. Obviously, they do need extra space, which is obviously what they're going for here, to provide themselves some extra rooms to deal with there.
There is a couple of conditions from highways, but they're the normal conditions that they put on anything, which is, you know, prior to first use, it's got to have proposed on-site car and cycle parking, servicing, loading, all marked out, levelled and surfaced with drainage, and to ensure the permanent availability of parking and manoeuvring areas in the interest of satisfactory development and high safety. And contaminated land have no objections or comments on the grounds of environmental protection, providing it proceeds in line with the application detail.
But just to clarify, in terms of highways, they're saying about the parking.
Everything has to be marked out before the
But it's-
first children arrive.
But it's not on highways land, is it? It's,
No.
the entrance is the highways, but I think that then goes into a private.
Yeah.
Yeah,
ownership,
but this one, these conditions are ones that highways tend to put on nearly every development, that all that has to be sorted before usage.
I have been there recently, so I probably ought to declare an interest, but I'll just give you a bit of information. I've done a little bit of work for them. That's my interest. But they do, those parking spaces are already marked out and are in good condition. I think it's just a change of use for this, isn't it? Really?
Let's go back onto that.
Happy to support?
Yes.
Yep.
Agreed, thank you. C then, 0049, 47 Magna Street, replacement of the door.
So there's no comments at all on this on the portal. You just move along. So that's girders. And here you go. So that is the existing, and they will be,
So it's an existing PVC door being replaced by a new PVC. door.
yeah,
Obviously, it is
so it's a replacement.
conservation area and that.
Window at the
One
back.
would have hoped you would have had, wooden door maintained, but given they have a PVC door, you can't really argue that they're replacing like for like.
There's a window as well, by the way.
Yes,
the
the window at the back, yeah.
Okay.
Happy to support?
Yes.
Yep, thank you. To D then, 0757,
No,
22 Raymond Street, rears its head against wall.
Yeah.
there has been several comments that I've tabbed. We previously objected to this, and on the grounds of the 2-metre high fence to the front of the property in a conservation area where the surrounding properties have low walls and street frontage. The height of the structure will also exacerbate highway visibility issues. There are comments from highways, neighbours and the NCC Heritage Environment people that I have here. I'll just go to those in a minute. And the tree officer did say still that it needs a tree plan. So that's the short version. So so basically going on, there's a lot of worry about if anything is done, that it needs substantive and expensive archaeological investigations over the whole site. However, before the main work, test pits and everything were dug in the garden. And this is from the neighbours. And it seems likely, therefore, that there would be heritage assets under the newly proposed garden extension building because of the previous work that was done there. So they were talking about, this is the neighbour still talking about the wall, saying it's now clear that a high wall is intended immediately to the rear of the proposed extension to the garden. Let me just get on to, just move along. You're just looking at a screen. And and the existing hedgerow is doomed. If the application is allowed, a large heavy digger will be needed to rip up the extensive rooting system of a 3 to 4 metre tall, very old, long hedge. Maintenance of that wall and the rear wall of the proposed extension would obviously be impossible given their proximity, and the sole purpose of mentioning this is to further illustrate how little thought appears to have been given. The height of the sunroom above the curved wall combined with its proximity to that wall will mean that most of the height of the sunroom above the wall would be visible over the curved wall from near the road. And therefore it would interfere with neighbours' privacy, overbear, dominate, overshadow the small garden area of 11 Leather Road, resulting in a loss of outlook to the detriment of the residential amenity and a loss of natural daylight as well as early morning sun to the trees and shrubs. They're also talking about the solar panels. The height of the proposed extension is substantially greater at 5 metres, reducing slightly with the slope of the roof. And it appears the extension would only be 1 to 2 metres behind the curved wall. So very close to the boundaries. So they then go on to talk about highways. So if I talk about what highways said, which they refer to. So highways have said, as with the previous proposal, the proposed parking arrangements do not appear workable, and consequently the proposal would likely to result in a reduction in on-site parking to 1 vehicle. However, it is noted that the current parking provision is limited and that no on-site turning facilities exist. It is also noted that the gate and fencing are retrospective, but these replace the fence, which together with the wall already obstructed visibility. Taking into account the proximity to the town centre and public parking, the existence of on-street parking on the south side of Raymond Street, together with waiting restrictions on the opposite side, it would be difficult to demonstrate the harm of an additional vehicle parking in the highway on this location. Highways. And then we have the heritage people who've said that they've talked about the history place, and they said if planning permission is granted, we therefore ask that this is subject to a programme of archaeological mitigatory work in accordance with the MPPF, Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government, and would suggest the following. No development shall take place until an archaeological written scheme of investigation has been submitted to and approved by the local planning authority in writing. The scheme shall include an assessment of significance and research questions, the programme and methodology of the site investigation recording, the programme for post-investigation assessments, provision to be made for analysis of the site investigation recording, provision to be made for publication and dissemination of the analysis and records of the site investigation, provision to be made for archive deposition of the analysis and records of the site investigation, and nomination of a competent person or persons organisation to undertake the works within the written scheme, and that no development shall take place other than in accordance with the written scheme. So there's quite a lot went on from them, because they have said that previously evidence of medieval occupation and industry were found. So therefore there is copious evidence of Saxon and medieval occupation in this area, and a suggestion of earlier Iron Age activity too. Consequently, there is potential that heritage assets with archaeological interest may be present at the site and that their significance will be affected by the proposed development. Did you want to take it bit by bit?
Well, I think generally, are we in accordance with the concerns that have been raised, or is there, do we want to start from?
Certainly say a word, if I may. Excuse me. The concerns have been raised, agreed. But I think the devil's in the detail a bit really here. First, regarding the parking, those who give permission for buildings with insufficient parking in the centre of the town take a very relaxed attitude to the amount of parking available in the town centre. As it happened, I've driven up Raymond Street twice today and back twice today, and on none of those occasions was there a single parking space on Raymond Street. So I can't accept that there is locally available parking that exists isn't there. So I'd be concerned about that. And also, a bit concerned about the fence that's been put on top of the wall at the front. We're going for 6'6". I don't know what they're hoping to do in the front area that they don't wish to have the public to see, but I think it's a pity if we allow particularly a reasonably attractive street to walk along, Raymond Street, for buildings to be fenced off from the public. It is truly boring walking around the town centre, which is all tall fences that you can't see over. I know it's narrow to look over, but it just gives you a sense of space that rather than walking down an unpleasant corridor, which you get if there's a high fence on both sides. So I'm personally unhappy about the parking and unhappy about the fence at the front. Unless they can explain, more convincingly they have about a particular need for a fence at the front. The wall is fine, it's 1 metre high. Most people are satisfied with that. I'd like to see the fence not allowed. I'd like to see further discussion about parking.
Comments?
I'm looking at the drawings, I can't really understand how it works because there's, well, the one you've got up there at the moment, on the right-hand side, it's got sunroom at the back. Yet on other pictures, it looks as though that's a continuous wing going all the way down to that curved wall. And I don't really understand what the building would end up being like.
This one.
Yeah, so you've got that.
Yeah, so this bit here, that's showing it going all the way down there, one continuous bit.
Yeah.
On the previous bit, there was a gap and then the sunroom there. And they're both proposed, I think, so I don't really understand that. And also serious misgivings about the parking and the exit onto the road. There's no ability to turn vehicles. So they'd have to either reverse in or reverse out to the road. Quite difficult, but having said that, that's what the existing arrangement is already. So in a way, it could be better if they've got a double garage, also get 2 cars, possibly 4 cars off the road in there. But it's when they emerge onto the road, it's difficult.
I think for me, this is a big house already, and we're looking at it with 2 cars in there, and they're actually going to increase the size of the house. So you would expect ordinarily for there to be more people ending up in the house. So if we disregard the fact that it's the current owners who may only have 2 cars, whoever comes next, family, won't. And that will really seriously impact that because they won't be able to get in their own house.
Mhm.
That's the truth. And, I think it's really misleading that picture because it doesn't have the wall and the fence at the front. So you get a true picture of what it really looks like. And it is starting to look like some kind of isolated fort.
Chris?
Yeah, could you go back to the previous slide, the sound like Dr. What's his face, and the next one with the writing was on.
That one?
No, the one with the description with thing like it.
Existing, isn't it?
That's the one. The thing that concerns me about this again is this retrospective business.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree that the parking, the traffic on Raymond Street, highways, I've got some comments later, just living the dream book, because I don't know which road they travel on, because I mean, you go along there, you have people picking up children from the nursery, you have the folk coming out of the Alexandra House, you have all that there, the traffic's parked along, you're going along, there's only room for 1 car at a time to come through, you have to let through, so I can't see how they think it's parking. But the retrospective bit, yet again, goes against the grain. This, as you walk along, it looks like a prison, doesn't it? The doors open and that, going, why are we letting people get away with this kind of behaviour?
So it sounds like we're objecting.
Summary, yeah.
But I think, we've already set a stall out in terms of the front garden and fences before. Anything new there, so we repeat those comments. The parking, I think we talked about before as well. But as people have said, it's pretty much the existing space that's there that is being used, but I think we can repeat that once more to say that, and with the increase in size of the house, there potentially will be an increase in size, demand for parking.
Even if they were to sell it on, they would sell it to a bigger side family probably.
So we're repeating the objections to the fence.
Yep.
We,
Objecting to the lack of parking. And I think we also said about the maneuverability of when you come out,
Yeah, difficult.
reversing straight out onto Raymond Street.
and lack of manoeuvrability space. Yeah.
The one of the objectors talked about 11 Nether Road being overlooked. Can't see that. Yeah,
I'll have a look on.
the cottage is the other side, but this is.
And that's just.
Yeah,
Is
it's. So you've got.
it this one?
Idiot. So on the back of there. When you,
Yeah, so there is already.
that's it, they're the ones that back onto it
so
rather
there's a
than
new-
across the road.
That's a new one.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I don't know any way you can.
I don't know whether we want to share any of the other concerns there or just stick to what we've done in the past. The historic building side, the watching brief on archaeological stuff.
Concur with the HSE
Yeah.
comments about the need for archaeological
Yeah,
investigation.
I think we should definitely support that, given its location in the town. It is, you know, we're fast running out of large old houses in the centre, you know, so.
Anything else you want to? E1076, our old favourite 57 Berry Road.
So this update is literally, it is the revision of the highways part of it. So when you look onto it's even small on this bit. This is basically the revision of this junction here. So again, I have tab information wherever I've just put it. Wherever.
Perhaps he is.
Oh, wall tabs, yeah. Look. 1076.
Yep, that's all.
Paper everyone. Not very. So I'll let you have a quick look at that one when I'm talking about highways. So highways themselves have said, thank you for reconsulting in respect of the above application, which is the submission. The most recent drawing, this one, demonstrates visibility to the north of the access is within the tolerance of government guidance, notwithstanding that any reduction to the X setback distance is outweighed by the proposal to provide a 2.4 metre parallel visibility display across the frontage, which will provide highway safety benefits to adjoining properties, in particular the dwelling to the northwest, where visibility in the approaching traffic direction will be secured. The highway advice therefore remains unaltered from my original response dated 26th of October. So the proposal compromises the creation of an access into Mill Lane, 2 new dwellings and the conversion of 2 outbuildings into 2 dwellings, the provision of parking for all elements and also for 57 Berry Road, together with the closure of the vehicular access onto the principal highway, which currently serves the site. The application demonstrated that a visibility of 2.4 times 43 is available to the south of the access and 2.18 times 43 to the north of the access without crossing third-party land. the provision of a 2.4 parallel visibility display across the entire site frontage will have the added highway safety benefit of securing visibility for number 22 Mill Lane in the approaching traffic direction, as well as number 24 to the south. So basically, there is a list of, whilst the 4.5 access would allow 2 cars to pass it, it would not allow a car and a delivery vehicle to pass. I would therefore recommend that, notwithstanding the submitted details, the access should achieve 4.8 metres, and they have it down as 2.4 for the first 10 metres. It has to be significantly wider. And then they have put several variations.
This is Cantrell Highway.
So that's highways.
So one would hope that we can.
So-
With their
So, right, and you've got the other 2.
Yes, well, I think if we remember rightly, we had the issue last time we considered this, that it was considered a rural road, which meant that the display had to be different. But
Because what we said last time was we objected for the following reasons: overdevelopment with small house and amenity sizes. We supported the highways officer's comments and conditions, with the exception of Mill Lane classification, which needs to revision due to the large volume of traffic. There was concerns about the destruction of a scheduled ancient monument in a conservation area, and that we supported Historic England's comments in relation to that.
looking at these are from
So there's
neighbours.
one from the neighbour, and then that one is from the historic sites, heritage sites from Norfolk County Council.
So the neighbour one tab very much, I think, echoes some of the
Yeah.
highways concerns in terms of the width of the road, not being sufficient to accommodate vehicles there. Then the historic, what do you call themselves, environment
Yeah,
person talks about the need for archaeological mitigatory work, which one would hope that we would wish to have happened at
Yeah.
the time. So unless anybody's got anything else, I would say we support the highways and the historic environment comments. Chris?
Yeah, just for information, I've had quite a long conversation back to the board with highways. I sent a message into the lady at highways saying, above kind of, I noticed that you think Mill Lane is a lightly trafficked area. This is far from the case. It is heavily used by traffic and pedestrians accessing the town centre and across the various amendments. And as one of the councillors, I object to this. Then she came back and said, I passed my comments to Brendan, which I've done. Then she tells, I just pointed out that the comments at Mill Lane are incorrect. Some time ago, Norfolk Highways decided that the road needed a traffic calming scheme due to the level of traffic on the road. And I hope that highways wouldn't support this. And then we've had 3 or 4 other boring comments, but that, that was it really. The highways don't obviously know yet again in Dreamworld with Mill Lane is they think it's a rural road, it isn't. And they think it's lightly used, which it isn't. And if it was, they wouldn't have needed to put in traffic calming, would they? But this area, I mean, I'd strongly object to this development all in all. It's just not.
so what I've written so far is to uphold previous objections and support both the highways and historic environment officers' comments.
I think that's been polite. I don't really see much improvement from last time. You've got a roadway, or a piece of probably green land, but bad use of that land. Mill Lane, whilst it is not as busy as the Norwich Inner Ring Road, I suspect sometimes as a sort of criteria they use, any description of Mill Lane other than busy is absurd. It's not just the speed bumps, they've got chicanes as well, to slow down the traffic. because as has been pointed out quite rightly, there's plenty of it. Some of it's me. I'm very disappointed that they've come back with a largely unchanged. I guess they've tried to deal with the displaying business. Is there any other improvement really in? So I'd be against. I think I agree with you. We should be continuing to oppose.
Coming back.
No, I was just going to say, I sometimes, like David said, I struggle sometimes imagining what they're trying to do with some of the properties. But it's very difficult to, I mean, I know Mill Lane quite well, and it's quite difficult for me to understand that, not knowing that bit of dead ground at the back. So I use the Google Maps a lot. And it really does show you how much that's going to impinge on all the other people who live around there, which of course are not shown on that map because they wouldn't want to do that. So it really does eat up all the green space in the centre of those houses. That's the bit that gets to me. And I just wonder if there's any way we can use that as a tool in these meetings. It's really rude of me to be looking at a phone, but it really paints a picture for me better than I can understand those, if I'm honest.
I think the thing is that we have to use the maps that we're provided.
Yeah.
Because it's got the drawings on it, whereas if you're just looking at Google Maps, you're making.
No, but I meant sort of in addition to,
Give you a bit of context.
it's just that it,
I'm not, what you mean that we just get a screenshot of Google
Yes, for
Maps?
each application so that we.
Because I don't think I'd be able to run both of them side by
No, I
side.
think-
oh, come on, you.
A screenshot on your presentation, maybe.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
To
Just a quick snapshot, because, you know, that particular area, it, you know, it really does show you how close all the houses are on
Yeah.
the back of it.
Yeah,
Which I knew, but I didn't appreciate until I looked at the map.
Yeah.
If you see what I mean.
okay, yeah, okay.
one of the application could write for a front door or something like that, but if you've got extensions and that are going
Yeah.
up against boundaries and something like that,
Yeah.
we can do that.
We've looked at 5 planning applications so far this evening. I'm surely this is the one that's attracted the most opposition from neighbours, and I think it's absolutely well made. However you find out the information that you've found out, it does make the point that it's the neighbours who are going to suffer. I know, arguably, you're not entitled to various things. If you buy a property, you're not entitled to light and so on and so forth. But I think as a town council, we should be saying, whatever the Brixton Council say in the end, we should be saying, we ought to be looking after the existing properties as well as allowing suitable new developments. And I don't think we are doing it if we allow that in there.
So we've objected and we've got our objections there.
Yes.
Okay, 64122, late planning applications.
Yes. We have 3.
Right.
Okay, so the first one is another one of our return favourites.
Yes. Sure.
And it is basically they've reconfigured plot 4 parking to the side of the house, and this was on the Albion. So there you go. This is the reconfigured parking. So they've put it.
Which I think is an improvement from what was before, but I think we all still feel there's probably too much going in there.
So let me just more. Obviously, it's a late one, so there isn't a huge amount on the portal.
Between the 2 houses, shifting the houses over. I can't remember where it was.
So it's a reconfiguration of the parking to the side of the house. Yeah, so they've now moved it down to the side.
Right.
They're better drivers than me trying to get that.
I think that this application got in common with the previous one, and a few others I've been through here, is that this is those are attempts to make residual minimal changes to a plan that is being highly objected in multiple items, in multiple angles. So they make a minimal change and comes back to the table. It's just unfortunate that I can't see when strongly opposed in from several perspectives, how they cannot kind of foresee that a minimal change will not suffice for change the mindset, or to change the perspective of not only the council, but people who live around these properties. Just let's find, and then if we put 2 extra spaces, we still have the big problem as we were before. So it's repetition over repetition, not only this one, but the previous one, which is unfortunate because it consumes a whole lot of our time. But it we come down to the same decisions. Nothing much gets changed.
So I'm just having a look at it on the portal.
Creative, we made major changes, like change some real aspects of the architecture, of the design of the plans, something fresh to look at. But when the changes are so minimal, there's no point in it.
Nothing else.
No, so only the, so wait a minute, if I look up 215, I'll just look at. Because, you're not easily.
If the residents will have a gate to the pub. Make it more attractive.
Castle Street's another one with no parking problems.
Yeah, yeah.
That'd be all right.
Maybe the neighbours can come to an agreement and build some sky bridges like they do on the malls, go straight from one to the others and use several exits, that's cost effective. This traffic,
No, it just takes me to that, the previous documents have been removed, that's not really.
otherwise they're in trouble.
So have we got a record of what our objections were on the previous?
I'm just trying to find those.
Yeah.
It's 94, actually, I want 215. Okay. Just hunting through the portal at the moment.
The point is, we all want to say yes to those applications and make people happy. Unfortunately, they do not give us enough tools, enough material for us to be able to use them. It's just unfortunate. We all want to say yes.
It's one of our previous comments in July.
Mhm. So we've got a March, July and September.
Yeah, so let me just have a look at the September one. I'll uphold previous, I'll tell you what, let's go back. Let's go back. Right, let's have a look at the first one, because that's probably got more on. So infill development, overdevelopment, increase in traffic, density of buildings, and appropriate development. residents.
Doesn't look like any access on that.
And the last one was previous objection
No road
remain.
I think it must be.
Support the comment contaminated and the tree offset, infill development, overdevelopment of area, increase in traffic, layout density of buildings and inappropriate development of residents.
Right, I think, Dave, Chris is difficult hearing, they just say it. You just repeat those ones.
So the previous objection was previous objections remain, and Thetford Town Council also fully support the comment of the contaminated land offset and the tree offset. So we complained that it was an infill development and overdevelopment of the area, that there had been increase in traffic, increase in, we didn't agree with the layout density of the buildings, and it was an inappropriate development for the residents.
Yes, quite right.
Happy to uphold
Yeah.
those objections.
And again, this is another really good example when you look on the Google Maps and you see all the green that's gone.
Yeah.
So the bit that's in blue to the right of that belongs to the pub, isn't it? The L shape. So again, when you look at this on Google Maps, this is all one big strip of green down there. If in a year's time, the pub decides it's going to sell off all its garden for another 4 houses,
Potentially.
this is my problem with it. And then you're going to try and get another 4 cars out of that one alleyway.
So we're objecting and uphold previous
Upholding
objections.
all the previous objections, please.
Okay. Got that one.
Yep.
And then we move along to, I've got way too many tabs open on my laptop. You'll have to excuse me a second while I get rid of a few of these. just in case we need to go back into the portal. So Teams, okay, so no, not that. Okay, so that was 94. So the next one is 71. They're not in order, the lates are just in the order that I've got them. So this is a single story rear extension and alterations. So let me go to that one. So here we have where the site is. Did I tell you where it was? Did I not tell you where it was? At 17 Ignfield Way. So there you go. Proposed extensions to the rear of the building. It's a somewhat complicated picture. So that's proposed layout basically with all the stuff taken off it.
I think in the main, they've got an existing leg that comes
Yeah.
out and then they can go
They're
across
just, well, you can see they're
to the
just,
full width of the back of the house.
well, there is a gap between that and the fence for,
Yeah. Pretty much
yeah.
full width.
So, yeah, so they're just adding to, there's already an extension on the back and they're adding to that.
In terms of the length of the garden, it's quite long. And the neighbouring property has got an extension that protrudes further back.
Yeah.
So I'll be happy to support.
Based on the garage blocks, they're not going to affect anyone else.
Yeah, we've already supported similar things, yeah, before similar extensions, so that's the problem.
There's a little bit extra there.
It's just the skylight thing,
Yeah.
isn't it? Inches, but that's,
And then the last one,
Almost pretending to be a pitch roof in the middle, isn't it? There was mentioned pitch roof, I thought.
just protecting. And then the last late is Leo's Restaurant on 21 Guildhall Street, and that's for a proposed extraction system. So there's the picture of it there, and you can see where the extraction system is going to go in. I don't know if you've managed to look at the pictures on.
looking
on
at the picture on it seems to be quite a substantial outflow pipe size compared to the building, but I presume you need to have it that way to get what you need. Chris, and
I think I remember seeing the site that there was an extraction system there that was not functional, that wasn't good anymore. It had to be removed. I think this is somewhat an attempt to replace with a newer system what was already there. I think I'm having error. Is at the back of the building, isn't it, towards the rear entrance? It's a replacement of the one that was existing there, because I actually seen the old one.
Chris,
Yeah, the original restrict caused the neighbours no end of distress.
Yeah.
It was pouring smoke into their buildings, et
It
cetera, et
was
cetera. It was also fixed to a listed building,
Mhm.
which wasn't good. I'm not sure how they're going to fix this one,
That's a good question.
because this is fixed in the same place, and they're still going to be fitted on a listed building.
there's any way zooming on.
I couldn't see the picture.
I think the
You
question.
know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to Google that.
Looks like his own standalone rocket launcher.
It does.
I think it's
Question
big.
here is, if it's a replacement of an old existing one, it's whether they had an initial permission for the previous one. So they're just replacing for similar like for like, because the permission was implied already there. Or are they putting a new extension because that one burned out? But it wasn't meant to be there in the first place. And that's my question. I can't really make a decision until I answer. Because it is a matter of whether or not they have a license to place it there, for instance. Or whether they ask the permission to put it there to start with, in the first place.
Are we allowed to surmise from this that the CAF will be reopened with all the?
We are being
If they're
recorded.
not going to use it.
We're being recorded.
Yes, I know, this is why.
But we can't tell what future customers will be, or we can surmise that the cafe will be opening.
If there's anything additional.
but just to my eye, that does look quite excessive size on the back there, but it may need
For all
to
of
be.
us that park in Pike Lane and look across there, we know what the back of that place looks like. You know, it's not great anyway.
This rubbish has gone now. But coming back, it is an eyesore for people to come to visit. Isn't it? You come, they park beside Castle Hill, one of the really jewels in the town, and then they park it and they look at it.
First thing you say.
There's nothing, additional. I haven't got anything in here that's, let's just go.
I suggest that you ask the questions. And just the feeling that you should probably ask the question whether or not the instruction can go in there or we just replace it. You know, licensing purpose for client information purposes. If the expression was already meant to be there, and you're just reinstalling, or if this is something that's just needs must and they decided to put it there. That might be a difference there.
There's no additional. Comments.
So, do we want to object? Yes, show of hands.
So the objection is,
So the objection, I would think, first thing would be the visual side of it. Conservation area, as Chris mentioned, you've got a car park that is used by many visitors to the town to see that it's not screened at all. On a listed building. And then we question was the original extraction and have permission be there anyway?
is that actually,
Planning
that's not
application,
planning?
objection, but can we go for
Thing
it?
is,
That'll be the
we
difference.
can't ask that, can we ask whether it's allowed to be attached to a listed building? If there's one there already.
You did say that was one of the considerations.
Yeah, but the thing is, they are asking to put one there. We know for a fact there was an old one there. So is this an application or a application in retrospective?
I think we look at it as a new application.
That's the thing. They ask you to put an insertion system there. If there's already one there, even if it's old, then this is a retrospective application.
I
Isn't
mean, to a certain extent, this is a little bit like the replacement front door, a PVC door on a building we don't think it suits, but I just don't know whether.
The question is, should the door be there in the first place? That's the point.
Not, but that's not our decision, is it?
No, because the non-material considerations, such as matters covered by licenses, I would have thought that that will be covered under environmental services due to whatever comes out of it. That's a non-material and not relevant for the decision because that's covered by something else, that being I'm just reading the material planning considerations and non-material ones. I think potentially one that is unsightly in a conservation area on a listed building. And if there's a more, maybe you could request a more appropriate. I don't know, because I don't know how conservation looking extractor fans get.
Well, it could be screened, couldn't it? That's.
Perhaps screening, perhaps screening put in place.
I ask that if they need an extraction system, which we're not proposing for the place to function, is that they choose something a bit more appropriate, or perhaps try to conceal it in a way that is a bit more, blended with
Screening.
Because it's a restaurant.
building. So at least not be so unsightly, I would imagine. That might be a solution.
Well, I think by putting screening down, we're probably covering that aspect.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. And then we're on to decisions of variance. I believe we've got a couple of those.
Yes, I sent them out to Nate. In your pack. Considerable.
One was the conversion of the upstairs area of a garage on Cokefield, I think, Charles
Yeah,
Road,
just trying to find paperwork.
which they felt that the external staircase and addition wasn't, sure, I'm surprised that they were going in that detail, but they don't tend
Yeah.
to normally, but.
So, yes, so to Charlotte Way, they refused that, the double garage into a home office. And actually, they made a point of saying that it was against our own planning policy.
Yes, I did notice that, of
So
course,
I
the
will
first.
I will
first
be
time.
bringing our planning policy forward for us to have a look at.
Yep, thank you.
That'll be next month. So according, the proposal is considered contrary to policies COM 01 and Gen 02 of the Breckland local plan adopted 2019, as well as the Thetford Town Council document policy on planning issues. So there you go. They approved the licence for Riverside Walk. And they said that the Town Council has raised an objection due to the negative effect on local residents, potential increase in antisocial behaviour. The extra hour was considered unnecessary, particularly as the option of variable extensions is available. The concerns are noted, but no objection has been raised by environmental health and considerations on the wider area. So it said, no, it has no impact on the heritage assets, including the setting of the adjacent grade 2 listed building conservation area.
Noted then. Thank you very much, Rosemary.
So
Items to be referred to Great Thetford Partnership, 64322. Dave and I did attend the latest GTP this morning, and for those that were at full council, the allotment issue was raised. There's no further update other than that the surveys will be happening this week, and that the allotment holders have been informed. We did note the emotive nature of the concerns of the allotment holders and asked that they be kept up to speed with all the information, so that we're not setting hairs running unnecessarily. Pass on.
yeah, we did mention the fact that they asked what format the consultation would take, and Breckland was in agreement that we don't know what that is yet, because once we find out what we're actually going to be consulting on, then we'll be able to put that in place. And it was agreed that we should be open and transparent in our.
Take it for granted anyway.
There's nothing further we want to take forward to the next one, which is scheduled for April, I believe. Okay, 64422, Suffolk County Council Planning. This one is back again. We thought, I think the last time that it was passed, and then it wasn't.
I know, and I printed it off the website today.
And so
It said application pending a decision.
So the bit in the press, I think on the 1st of February, gave a little bit more background in that the previous meeting where they said it had gone through, they had indicated that the tenant farmer had signed the agreement for section 106, when in fact he hadn't. So the officer was slightly misleading the councillors present. So it's now been thrown back. So the planning commission is not in place. One suspects that there may be some arm twisting for the tenant farmer to sign the 106 thing, and it'll come back again. But they did note that in there the objections of ourselves, amongst others. And it was interesting to see, I think one of the councillors there talked about the traffic management plan, because I thought everything was going to come in from the west side and then come out the east side, basically onto the Berry Road. And they were saying that some of the empty lorries wouldn't go all the way into Thetford to come out again, that they would turn left into Barnham, into the road to Elvedon. And that seemed to be quite an objection to them as councillors who are considering this. So we'll watch this space. I think there's a lot more we can do. The objections have been noted, and it seems to be technicalities that are involved in the decision. keep an eye on it. Thank you. 64522, sale of land in Thetford Town Council. Probably a bit of a misleading heading there, is it? This is to do with the Breckland land that we were put on guard about.
Brecon Bridge, whatever it was.
Yeah.
I was just asked to put it on the
Yeah,
agenda.
so I think I
Um,
asked for it to be put on, which is what councillor Land brought to our attention, that there's a
Yeah.
number of sites which I think have now been
Circulated
circulated,
to everybody.
but the detail isn't really there
No.
that I could see
I have-
of which plots we're looking at.
I have written to planning and asked if they've got maps of the plots that are on that list. And also some of them I think are put under Thetford because they have a Thetford postcode,
Yes, I did.
but
notice.
aren't actually in
Oh.
Thetford.
So,
So we have to, there's a bit of, but also I think that Simon Wood was talking today about, wasn't it? And there's still some work to be done. That's, as they refer to it, as the raw data. And there is more work to be done and information disseminated on that. Because literally, we've just got a list of properties and there isn't any maps or anything. And I think if, once we get more information, I think several of them are not actually in Thetford. They just happen to have IP
so
24.
can we ask for next meeting then to have the list and the sites that are relevant to us
Yeah,
that you've done?
you want me to go through the postcodes?
Yeah, so just bring forward what is relevant.
I
Dave?
think there's about three.
There are some that are well defined on the list, and that's the car parks. A little worrying, for why they would be on the list, but it's, I think Jane sent round, a link to the context of that list. And looking at that, they seem to be saying it's a bit of a technical thing and they can't really move forward until they've done valuations, so they have to have a list. The cynic in me thinks that they've got a master plan, they're not telling us, but it'd be interesting to know a little bit more detail.
Chris, you want to go in?
Yeah, this came up again at Cabinet. Chris asked a question about Bill, the Cabinet member who was a bit chippy and didn't like an answer. I think it's a sore point with Brecon at the minute. They have sold off a piece of land in it. It's not got them, it's gone and land and bought that. There are, as I said, car parks, very low car park is one. Don't understand that. Bits and pieces, but I think it's a watching brief. I believe that Brecon are trying to get as much money as they can out of small sites. I mean, but the cost of buying a piece of land for £6,000 is, you know, doesn't outweigh the thing. It doesn't make sense to be fair. Some of the strips of land are stupid. The strip of land along between Mine Close play area and the road up into Elm Road. I mean, it's only as wide as this room is that it's wide. There's several, but there is some bigger patches which are major on your wall, you know, which I did send you this early in the year.
Yeah.
But I would read, we should keep an eye on this because I don't think Brecon Bridge are going to let this go because they've come back in for the Green Close. You know, so it's, we've got to keep taking Brecon to task over their idea of selling this stuff off. Because as you tell me, when it's gone, it's gone.
I say,
We'll come back and revisit this next
Yeah.
month then. 64622, community engagement. We've got anything you want to shout about?
I don't think so. I think probably next month we will have to highlight, they were saying today that they think the consultation on the local plan will be out at the end of February, beginning of March. So potentially we might want to highlight that so that the residents can engage with that consultation.
Yeah, so once that comes out, we'll just get everybody aware of it on
Yeah.
Facebook and whatever. won't we? Yeah. Okay, 647, Matt, do you want?
No.
64722, committee officers update. You got
There
anything?
isn't anything else since the agenda.
Okay, thank you all very much then. You can close.
Lovely, thank you.
We got sent or I got sent a request to do a media piece about this 25-minute project where we're all 25 minutes from somewhere, you know,
Oh.
amenities.
Well-
This was funded by, it was a Telegraph, they're trying to find a story.
Yeah, it was on BBC as well.